Our next guest is a gentleman that I mentioned earlier. His name is Scott Slater, and he is the CEO and president of an organization called Cadiz. And as I said, we caught up with him over the phone in Hawaii, so let's go to hear that. Hi, we're glad to have as our next guest a gentleman named Scott Slater, who's the CEO and president of Cadiz Incorporated. So, Scott, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And I understand you're in Hawaii today.
As a matter of fact, I am.
Lucky guy. I hope it's vacation and not work.
This time, yes.
No, excellent, excellent. So, what we'd like to know, a couple questions to go through. Who and what is Cadiz? If you can kind of give us a history of the company and let us know a little about that.
Sure. Cadiz is a natural resources company. It's publicly traded on the NASDAQ and the symbol CDZI. And we've been doing business in San Bernardino County for decades. You'd find us in the eastern Mojave Desert. And if you're ever flying east from Los Angeles or Ontario and you pass over the desert, you'll see two or three very large swaths of green out there in the middle of the desert, and that happens to be our sustainable agriculture. It's very beautiful and productive, and we do dried on the vine raisins and citrus, and we're the largest agricultural producer in San Bernardino County.
I understand you do a lot of organic farming as well?
Organic and sustainable.
Excellent, excellent. So,
out where you are, it strikes me to be doing agricultural production. It's not like there's a bunch of rivers out there. Tell us about the water aspect of Cadiz, because I was able to go online and learn something about the company, and it's really quite impressive. So perhaps you can share with us information about that water.
Yeah, for sure. Our present notoriety is predominantly attributable to the fact that we're pursuing a extremely innovative water supply project, which is based on conserving vast quantities of water. And as you say, it isn't intuitive for a lot of people to think that there is vast quantities of water in the desert, but yet people in San Bernardino County know that there is water available, and in fact, the Mojave River region, which is a host to a lot of the high desert economic activity, has supported that activity for decades. Similarly, over in the Fenner Valley, where Cadiz is located, we have 35,000 acres of land in the Fenner Valley watershed. The watershed is about 1,300 square miles, which makes it about 5-6 times larger than the Chino Basin, which is to the west, and also in San Bernardino County. And the groundwater aquifer system beneath the ground is sustained by a very topographically diverse watershed in which at the top or the upper end of the watershed you have elevations reaching 7,200 feet. It makes it the highest point in the Mojave. And the highest point also brings with it high precipitation relatively and snowpack. And so that water that falls, rainfall, snowpack that occurs at the upper end of the watershed hits the mountains and begins a migratory path beneath the ground surface where it joins a water table and aquifer system, which is presently estimated to be larger than the water that's in Lake Mead. It all exists beneath the ground surface, but water is always moving somewhere, and this water finds its way downhill through the Fenner Valley over hundreds of years until it reaches an area called the Fenner Gap, where Cadiz owns most of the land. There is a constriction point at the gap, which is about 2.5-3 miles wide. The water passes through the gap and then ultimately discharges into these two dry lakes called Cadiz and Bristol. And while water in other locations of the state typically finds a surface body of water to discharge into or to the ocean, in this instance, the exit point for the water are these dry lakes where the water actually wicks up through the surface and evaporates just like the water off your swimming pool. And Cadiz has been fortunate enough to use this aquifer system for decades to support its agriculture. One of the really interesting facts is, as we sit here today, the Cadiz groundwater table is at the highest point it has ever been in the last 20 years. So despite the drought, that large aquifer system continues to support ag and continues to lose water to these dry lakes. So while it isn't apparent or intuitive to a lot of people that there is water, in fact, there is substantial quantities, and it is not too dissimilar from other locations in San Bernardino County, which also enjoy significant water resources.
Can you expand on the Cadiz Valley Conservation Recovery and Storage Project that you guys are working on?
Sure. The plan itself is I think borrows from a lot of success stories in other locations, but in short summary, that water that's landing on the ground surface up the upper end of the watershed is following this migratory path. And we thought that what we wanted to do was initially evaluate the landscape for what kind of opportunities there would be to take advantage of that water supply and to harvest it in a sustainable way. What we learned is that the water following its migratory path hits these dry lakes in a subsurface basis and then is wicking up through the ground surface, much in the same way as a natural pump, if you would, is pumping the water off of these dry lakes and evaporating. So in a balanced system, what's coming in at the upper end of the watershed slowly migrates beneath ground surface and flows downhill from almost in a funnel context where a broad watershed is coming to a constriction point, and then it evaporates through these dry lakes. So what we intended to do was, in the first instance, was to create a set of wells beneath the ground surface that would intercept that water on the way downhill before it could become before it could evaporate through the system. And so the first phase of our project is a interception program to conserve that water which would otherwise leave the system through the natural process. That's the conservation interception portion. We also have a rescue portion, which is between where our property sits and those dry lakes, sits about 10 million acre-feet of groundwater that is presently marching slowly every day to those dry lakes where it evaporates. And so we are going to manage the aquifer system and draw down the water table slightly to pull back and rescue molecules of water that would otherwise evaporate. And we're going to combine that along with the interception function to have a interception and rescue program. And that's really what the initial 50-year phase one of the project is all about.
Who's participating with you in this project?
Well, we have, this is a pretty exciting public-private partnership where Cadiz is in the process of developing the resource, if you will, and then it is partnering with public water supply systems around Southern California to manage the groundwater withdrawals and distribute the water. So the lead agency for the project comes from Orange County. It's the Santa Margarita Water District, which is a large urban purveyor in South Orange County. But we are also partners with other public agencies and public water supply systems locally in Riverside County. The Rupa Community Services District is a project participant. The Golden State Water Company, which distributes water throughout San Bernardino, Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura County, is participating. The Suburban Water Company, Cal Water, the Three Valleys Municipal Water District, which provides water over in the San Gabriel Valley, the Pomona, Claremont, San Dimas area, is also participating in the project. So we have a great number of entities in Southern California and many others that have signed letters of intent. I think in the end, we will have the opportunity to distribute water throughout much of urban Southern California, San Bernardino, Ventura, Los Angeles, Orange, and San Diego counties.
Is the quality of the groundwater that's going to be coming out of the aquifer very good, or?
But on a comparative basis, you would think it's about equivalent to what you find in most spring bottled water. We have very low TDS, actually remarkably low, and on a comparative basis, it's about half of what you typically find in the salinity level in the Colorado River aqueduct. So our total dissolved solids number is around 250 to 300 at the highest. And the water that's in the Colorado River aqueduct, where our water will join the Colorado River supply, is about 600 typically or higher. And so we will actually have a softening benefit when our water reaches the aqueduct. We are below also all other MCLs, with the exception of one, which is our naturally occurring chrome. We're slightly above the MCL limit. But we have made some investments in research and development, and it has paid off. We just recently announced a partnership with a company called ATEC, which has mastered a chrome 6 removal treatment technology, and with that technology in place, we're going to be substantially below each and every MCL. So yes, the quality of our water is superior.
Well, I know. Go ahead, Mike.
So I was going to say, just as a listener, I'm thinking to myself, now, you're telling me that there's an aquifer groundwater resource in San Bernardino County that holds as much water as Lake Mead, the largest surface reservoir in the United States, that has good quality water, especially now with this technology that you just discussed. And there's a way to get that water into the Colorado River aqueduct. Gosh, in the middle of a drought, I would think this would be fantastic news, and there would be multiple water agencies. I'm thinking like Metropolitan Water District. Hey, this is a great source of water to include in this. Can you share a little bit about I'm sure there's many regulatory hurdles to overcome in today's legal environment, but it just seems like, wow, that much water after the fourth year of a drought available in Southern California. It's like no one's ever heard. I mean, I certainly never heard of that before. I think that's fantastic. So maybe just share with our listeners a little bit about what Cadiz is looking to do to work with the water wholesalers or some of the retailers in Southern California.
Sure. Well, let me start with that California has some of the most, well, actually, she has the most stringent environmental laws in the country. I think we all know that. And on one hand, it contributes to the great quality of life we have, but on the other hand, it can sometimes be an impediment to actually trying to move forward on projects. So what we decided to do in this instance was to dedicate ourselves to a pathway to not only do an innovative project, but one that was environmentally benign. So we went out, we tested, and then peer-reviewed our water project. We then went through a very stringent environmental review process that was led by the Santa Margarita Water District. In the end, the district concluded that there was not a single adverse environmental impact associated with our project, which is a standard that very few projects of any kind, and particularly water projects, can meet. So we were determined to be environmentally benign in the environmental review process. And then San Bernardino County, which has a very rigorous desert groundwater ordinance, also approved the project independently under its ordinance. So we not only satisfied CEQA, we satisfied the county ordinance and requirements. Those approvals were viewed by some skeptically, even though they were in open, transparent public processes, and we faced litigation. So we were sued 9 times. We were sued 9 times, despite the fact that we were deemed to be environmentally benign.
Yeah, I'm thinking, and here you are trying to do something that is going to help contribute to the solution of our water issues here in Southern California. It seems like more people would want to say, hey, let's help you figure out how to, succeed, rather than say, "Stop! We don't want you to do this." But go ahead. I interrupted your
No, I think that's the situation we find ourselves in California. I think it is apparent that we have a huge group of supporters. We have bipartisan support across the state, and in particular within Southern California. We have congressional reps on either side of the aisle, assembly, local agencies. We have thousands of supporters, but yet the legal process is available to anybody to try to challenge what's going on. So that's their right. It's the United States of America, and that's the way we do business, and we were prepared to meet those challenges, and in fact we did. We went to trial with 6. Along the way, we settled with 1 and had yet another peer review of the impacts of the project. And in connection with that settlement, it was again concluded there wasn't going to be any environmental impacts. We went to trial. We won on all 6 cases that went to trial. The judge from the Superior Court in Orange County concluded that there was not a single error in process or in substance in the entire 27,000-page record that she had before her. So after multiple days of trial and ultimately crafting a decision that took 6 months for her to conclude, it was a clean sweep. And so the project met those challenges. So where are we now? Well, we are presently in process at the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, where we hope to secure the assistance by MET to wheel or transport the water through its system to retail and wholesale agencies within the Metropolitan Water District boundaries. So we're very confident that that approval will occur and that we can meet any conditions associated with the conveyance of water. There will also need to be some decisions that are made by local agencies who are trying to connect to the MET system in order to make the deliveries. I think most of those things are pretty routine, frankly, from this point. We think we've met the legal challenges. There needs to be a resolution of the appeals. So those parties who lost in trial have exercised their right to appeal, and those appeals are likely to be heard late fall of this year, and we're expecting that our trial court decisions will be upheld, but nonetheless we have to run through that process. So pretty much the things that are occurring in Southern California are manageable and proceeding in accordance with our expectations, with a hope that we would be able to deliver water beginning in 2017 with the start of a construction schedule in 2016. I do think there's one other point which would be of interest, and it's representative of our approach to be innovative and our desire to be innovative. In order for our project to be environmentally benign, we had to approach our issue of how we were going to convey the water from the Cadiz property to the Colorado River Aqueduct in an intelligent way. And we chose to locate our pipeline inside an active railway right-of-way. And we did that to avoid impact to desert tortoise. Parenthetically, the company is a huge supporter of desert tortoise. We have just recently, earlier this year, set aside, with the approval of the state of California, the largest desert tortoise mitigation bank in the history of California, 7,400 acres of land in another watershed. But the project itself, we wanted it to be environmentally benign. So we reached an agreement with Arizona California Railroad to put our pipeline in an active railway right-of-way. This meant that the route would be a longer route, approximately 7 to 8 miles longer than the shortest route between 2 points. But it also meant that we wouldn't impact the desert tortoise. And as a condition of our being in that right-of-way, it was a condition of our lease agreement and a condition of federal law that we further railroad purposes for our pipeline. And we've come up with a number of really great contributions at the suggestion of the railroad. We are going to be providing green power, and I love this idea. We're going to be providing green power by our water flowing through a 43-mile pipeline, we're going to have turbines inside the pipeline, which will be spun by the water passing through the pipeline, generate green power, and we're going to contribute that power to the railroad for an expansion of their transloading operations, for the lighting of their sidings, for crossings, and other railroad functions. So that's a cool benefit. And then lastly, as it pertains to the regulatory approval for our use of the right-of-way, we are going to be installing a expansive fire suppression system all along the 43 miles with water coming from our pipeline. So the event that there's a fire at any one of the 30-some creosote wooden trestles along the route, that our fire suppression system will knock down the fires. And if you've been following the activities, there's more than 140 trestle fires and railroad accidents that have occurred over the last 18 months, attributable to the high traffic of petroleum products. So we're hopeful that the BLM this year will also be signing off that we further railroad purposes. That's a long answer, but that's where.
No, that's incredible. And I was just going to ask you about that relation. I was reading about the propellers and things on how they do it. Well, we're coming up against a break here, and I do want to thank you for joining with us today and sharing that with our listeners. And Mike,
I just want to say I've never been aware of such an environmentally focused project that touches so many different elements. It seems to me that folks like at the Natural Resources Defense Council, or I think maybe that's the name of it, or environmental group, Sierra Club would get behind what you're trying to do. And so I just want to.
Well, maybe you can give Scott, if you can give your website address where to get a hold of you to find out more information, because it's unbelievable what you guys are doing.
I was just going to say, the way I found it is I just Googled Cadiz, and it's the first, your company is the first one that comes up. So it's very, very informative, and I encourage folks to take a look, because you really set a model for a environmentally conscious yet very important initiative in terms of bringing water to a dry Southern California. So thank you for taking time to share with us that perspective.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Bye.